Yep. I'm gonna do a quick episode on bonfires. So it's a solo podcast. I'm gonna do a couple of days the next while, and I'm gonna get a few new guests in then. But bonfires, which for any of my foreign listeners, bonfires at Halloween are a huge thing. Were a huge thing in Ireland. I don't think my youngest son has ever seen a bonfire, but my older one has. And now, can you imagine rocking up to a bonfire now, considering the amount of cowards in Ireland walking around with masks on that be afraid of smoke or afraid of... You've actually probably, if you go to a bonfire, you've probably a higher percentage chance of dying at a bonfire than from COVID. But anyway, so bonfires around my area. I used to be a bit player in collecting for the bonfire, but then as you got older, you took more of a key role, and so we used to start collecting from about bleeding the end of August. Like, there was a lot of thought put into it, and we were surrounded by like St. Anne's Park and loads of building sites all around the place, the old scaffolding planks, and we had the tyre centre down beside the Scout down in Raheny that used to get volleyed over. Now, when you collect for a bonfire, you have to be a team player, because if you're not a team player, you got battered. It's like Lord of the Flies. Do you know what I mean? Survival of the fittest. If everything went pear-shaped in this country, and we had no power, no internet, no everything, it would kind of life would resemble collecting for a bonfire. The strongest and the alphas would lead, and all the little worker bees would do the business. But anyway, so your main staple for a bonfire. Now, if fucking Eamon Ryan, the Green Party leader, listened to this podcast, he'd probably be crying into his tofu all night. So the main staple for a bonfire back in the day was tyres. You needed tyres. And we used to get a few tubes as well. So what would happen is, you would grab a whopper scaffolding plank, right? And you'd probably go down with a few scaffolding planks, and you put loads of tyres on them. You put, say, 10 tyres, 10 car tyres, maybe 15 car tyres, and loads of tubes all around you. And you'd carry them. You'd rotate, you know what I mean, between a couple of you. It's a bit of teamwork. And that was about 1.5 miles to 2 miles of a walk to our stash spot, which our stash spot was down near St. Anne's Park. In a place, it's called Newberry Glen now, but that's where our stash spot was. Used to stash all the wood down there. So, be a good old walk. Now, you go into building sites then and grab the scaffolding planks and pallets and boards, half decent gear, that would be a staple as well. And then if people were launching out sofas and stuff, you'd nail them, but that'd be closer to the time. Mattresses were always whopper. But there was a lot of teamwork involved. And you used to have your bonfire attire. Like, you'd go out in rotten clothes because you get dirty, like collecting all that type of stuff. And it was funny. Halloween was a mad old time. Now it's very American now, but back in the day, now if somebody was getting cheeky with you around your estate, or if, like, in the summertime, like, you'd volley a ball into somebody's front garden and they'd grab it, or they'd stick a knife into it, or you volley the ball off their window and they came out and gave you a load of shite. Now what you'd say, you and a couple of your mates, that cunt's gaff is getting it at Halloween. So that was like all year round. It was like Halloween was like a purge. It's like that cunt's gaff is getting tore out of Halloween. That's what you used to say. But anyway, so you get all your stash spot. Now, the way we used to build it was we put like a big centre pole in the centre of it. So that'd go up first. And all the tyres would go around the bottom and tubes and everything on the inside. So you get a big centre pole, right? And all the tyres and tubes go around it. Then you start putting the small stuff in the middle of it. Burn it up like logs and all. That'd be burning for a while. Then you start putting pallets and boards and stuff like that on the outside. But you'd build it up nice and firm so it wouldn't go over, you know what I mean? But the centre pole, you always have a decent centre pole that it would stop the fire falling over. But I think, like, they'd be fairly big, like, you know. And then we moved it down onto the James Larkin Road. So, like, the fire used to be, if you drive down from Clontarf, like, all the way past St. Anne's Park, where that Carvin is, drive down about half a mile. We used to have it on the right hand side, right at the sea there. But yeah, that's where it used to go. But it could be maybe 20 foot high. But you'd have it nice and packed out, and then you'd probably keep a sofa by the side for sitting on when you lit it, and a few bits and pieces. You'd all keep a few bits and pieces skied off for the next day. But yeah, that was collecting for the bonfire. And like you see in gyms now, all farmers carries with 2 kettlebells or sledge rags. No wonder anyone in the 80s and 90s are bleeding animals. Early 90s, not all these new bleeding cowards. Early 90s, all them soft cunts kind of came towards the end of the 90s, you know. Cunts that were afraid of bleeding everything and terrified. But yeah, there was no... If you collected for a bonfire, you had to be staunch, because if you didn't do your turn, you just got battered. That's the way it was. If you like were a mile and you just said, I'm not dragging this pallet anymore, you got battered. That's what happened. You got battered. So you had to do a bit of teamwork, do your fair share. But Halloween, yeah, it was a mad old time. Like, anyone got cheeky with you, their gaff's getting at Halloween. But that was collecting for the bonfire. Like, now I look at all the kids nowadays floating around on their little bikes and little electric bikes, little tubs of lard everywhere. Probably need to start getting people collecting for bonfires again, get them in a bit of shape. You know what I mean? But even as well, fireworks. Like, I brought me oldest youngfella up there a good few years ago, brought him up to Newry to buy fireworks. Like, I just went into the shop and there's bleeding boxes everywhere, and he was buying whatever fireworks. I remember going in to Moore Street. He used to buy in Moore Street and Henry Street fireworks in the late 80s because they were illegal, and you'd get like these undercover coppers, you know what I mean, like going around the place like trying to grab youngfellas that were selling fireworks illegally. And you just see these bleeding mullahs coming up. They look like bleeding coppers, and what they'd be like when you see coppers at a festival. They just stand out like a sore Mickey. But anyway, the youngfellas be selling fireworks, so you'd buy like rockets or black cats or all these fireworks in Moore Street and Henry Street. They're fucking expensive, but like they're fairly limited, the selection, compared to what you can get now. And yeah, that was it. And kind of when you really got involved in the bonfire, you weren't really knocking around doors getting sweets and all. You know, you did that kind of when you were younger. But here's another thing we used to... So a young fella, I can't remember his name. I used to go to Joey's in Fairview in primary school, and a young fella showed me how to make bangers. Did anyone ever do this? I used to do it all the time, and it was whopper. Like, this was lethal. Some of the best bangers I ever made were homemade. So what we used to do was, right, you get, you know, the little round rolls of caps, so that you put in a gun, the little red ones with the little circle on them. So you get a decent roll of them, right? I used to get 2 rolls. And what you did was, you'd put a pin through every cap. Put a pin just through every cap. Yeah? So if there was 100 on a roll, you put a pin through every single little round cap hole. And I used to do it with 2 rolls. And you'd fold the caps back and forward like they were an accordion. Do you know what I mean? So I'd fold them back and forward, and they'd resemble like a little accordion, right? And what I used to do was squish them down real tight, so like the caps are all on top of each other, and put some sellotape really tight them, really pack them down real tight, and some sellotape, and wrap the whole 2 rolls of caps like an accordion down on top of each other, and I'd cut a little rubber band then, right? No little elastic, and leave about that much, and sellotape that to it, right? You'd light the rubber band and leg it, and the fucking bang out of them. Now, they were super loud, but it was a bit of like, there's probably kids going, what are caps? What? Caps? Listening to this. They were lethal. Did anyone else ever make them? So you had to kind of do a few bits and pieces back in the day. There was no like my ma didn't even know we were going into town buying fireworks. You just used to do it. Like I used to do the papers, and I'd do other things to get a few bob. So we'd go into town to buy fireworks, and you'd stash them in your bedroom waiting for Halloween. You know, that's what we used to do. But yeah, the old bonfires. The reason why I put up a bit of a podcast on that few minutes is because I was talking about it on the post the other day, and I was kind of thinking about it, going, there's lots of fuckers out there that never collected for a bonfire. All these little dopes googling it, or can you get an app for a bonfire? But that's what we used to do, and you'd be collecting for months and months and months, and you go home every night after like collecting, bollocksed, and then about like coming close to Halloween, you used to have fights over Halloween, over wood, over tyres. You'd literally fight to the death, like, because we were up where we lived was up in a height, so anyone that was trying to stroke our wood had to come from the bottom top. So while you hear this taught us like military tactics, take the high ground. So we'd be up on the high ground, we'd have like piles of rocks, like piles of them, and anyone that tried to take our wood, we just absolutely hockeyed them out of it with stones, like rallied. I don't know how someone wasn't killed, but we were like 10, 11, 9. This is what we used to do. So the logistics and the learning that went into collecting firewood for Halloween and fighting off other guys and military tactics of taking the high ground, yeah, it was crazy. But we had the youngfellas from Cabarrick used to try and take our wood, youngfellas from Foxfield, you get Eadmore down the odd time, you'd get lads from Harmonstown, and St. Anne's never really, but you'd have them all floating around, and it was like all knocking around each other's gaffs, the wood's getting robbed, and they'd be bleeding, fellas getting bricked out of it. And that's the way it was. Did anyone else collecting bonfire wood? Did anyone else ever have fights? Who did you have fights with? Leave it in the comments. Or was it just happening around my area? I'd say it didn't. And then getting closer to Halloween, you'd be getting panicky about like the council taking your wood or however. So you'd always like get one of the younger youngfellas to ask his ma, could you stash a load of wood in this back garden? Or the tyres were the prized possession. They were to be guarded with your life, the old tyres. So they used to go into someone's back garden because the councils, because when I think about it, how half of us aren't dead from all them fumes, but the councils used to go after the tyres because they pumped out so much black smoke. You know, Eamon Ryan crying into his tofu, listening to this, if he ever comes across his tofu sandwich, he's probably after falling off his vegan bike. But anyway, yeah, a lot of black smoke used to come off the tyres, so they'd be all over them, whipping them straight way into the van. But yeah, that was it. So there was a bit of planning went into it, a bit of teamwork, a lot of teamwork, and the old soft cunts just weren't tolerated. You had to be able to carry your share. You had to be able to add to the group, get stuck in. Teamwork. I seen Concrete Cleary there said round Ballymun that if you didn't collect for the fire, you weren't allowed to stand around it. That's proper order. Proper order. No bleeding Johnny come latelys jumping in, taking advantage. But it was it was some serious teamwork done in there, and farmers carries, and used to have good boys dodging security guards, protecting building sites. Used to take scaffolding planks where they were the number one. They were sought after, and then pallets next. So scaffolding planks and pallets, that's what used to get lashed out of it, because the scaffolding planks were deadly for carrying the tyres down from the tyre centre. So that is it in a nutshell. That's me podcast on bonfires, Irish bonfires, and cunts gaffs getting it at Halloween, getting egged out of it, and that's me lot. So hope you enjoyed this little trip back down memory lane about bonfires and what we got up to, and the select few that did collect for a bonfire, it shaped you and moulded you. Anyway, yep.